Hello, Alvaton family. Today I will be reading from Proverbs chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. This coming January, I will have been with Fruit of the Loom for 20 years. When I started working for Fruit of the Loom, I was hired in the customer service department, and a short time after that, I was moved to production planning. In planning, I really found my sweet spot. I found what I was good at. I was given a computer with Excel, a database, and I was put in a corner and told, manage this product line. It was something I excelled at. It was in my wheelhouse. But because of the good job that I did, a short time later, I was moved from managing products to managing people, which is a very different process. After a short time, I hired a young man, and he's probably one of the hardest workers I've ever hired in my life. But he was rude and obnoxious and condescending and hard-headed and stubborn, and these are all the perceptions I had of him. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'd rather do without him and rather do without a hard worker than have somebody with his attitude. So I got a book by John Maxwell called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and I told myself, I'm going to fix this kid. I'm going to get him where he needs to be. And after reading that book, I discovered the problem wasn't him. The problem was me. I didn't listen very well. I wasn't good at giving directions. And despite the fact that I value people, my actions and attitudes didn't show that. So what I learned from this book is that I needed to make changes. And what this did is it started a process in my life where I went out there and I read from the business experts of the world. I read from people like John Maxwell, John Wooden, Darren Hardy, Stephen Covey, Ken Blanchard, Jim Rohn, and Dale Carnegie. People who weren't fly-by-night or pipe psychologists, but people whose words had stood the test of time. People in business who you could trust, who you knew their words were truthful. It had been proven. And as I started reading these gentlemen's books and listening to their podcasts, I started hearing ideas that I was like, Kevin, you got to remember that. And so I bought a journal and I started writing down all of their best ideas, things that I knew I needed to remember. And along the way, I added other ideas from other areas, things that I had heard that I was like, Kevin, you probably really need to remember this and apply this to your life. And I take out that journal from time to time and I read it, and it reminds me of the attitude I need to have, the actions I need to take. There is one particular line I have in there that is labeled anonymous. And I'm going to tell you the line at the end of this Devo because I think it's a really cool line. It's really kind of a funny story. But as I'm sitting there reading this note for probably the 1,000th time, laughing for the 1,000th time, it dawns on me. This is in the Bible. This is something Jesus talked about. So I sat there and I started going through all these different ideas and all these different thoughts in my journal, and I was like, well, Jesus talked about that in the Sermon on the Mount. This was in a parable that Jesus gave. Paul talked about this in one of his epistles. This lesson here comes directly from one of the stories of the Old Testament. I think all too often over the years, I've used the Bible as either a badge of honor, trying to get my quota of chapters in a day. Hey, I read 2 chapters today. Hey, I read 3 chapters today, so I could check it off my list. Or I've used it for a troubleshooting guide. When in all actuality, what the Bible is, it's an instruction manual for this life we live in. All too often I want to flip in my Bible and find out, I'm going through this right now. What do I do about it? When if I'd been reading my Bible and studying it the whole time, I wouldn't be searching. I would know what to do to ever prevent getting into that situation. And if that situation still came along, I would know the attitude and the actions I would need to take. While you're at home over these next couple of weeks, I hope you are in your Bible. I hope you're reading it. I hope you're studying it. I hope you're reading large chunks at a time to get full context. But I also hope that if you're reading along and you find a verse that really stands out to you, that you stop. That you stop and you think about that verse. That you think, how does this apply to my life right now? How can I use this lesson in my life? So these next couple of weeks, while we're apart, I just ask that you're in your Bible and that you're reading it and that you're studying it. Proverbs 8, verses 10 and 11. Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. I think one of the greatest evidences that there is a God and that He exists is the wisdom that is in His Word. The wisdom in the Bible, in my opinion, proves there is a God. I hope you have a great week. Oh yeah, I got a story to share with you. So one of my favorite sayings in my book comes from somebody who, let's just say they're cantankerous, okay? That's the best way to describe them. I inherited their office a couple years ago, and there was this little line written above their phone. And I'm not sure if they put that over their phone to remind them how to act when they got on the phone and just failed miserably at it, or if somebody snuck in their office and put that over their phone. But the line goes like this. Never argue with an idiot. They will only drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. One more time. Never argue with an idiot. They'll only drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, Jesus said, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may turn and trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." I hope you have a wonderful day, and we can't wait to see you.